Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Wilmot Township Council meeting this evening. At this moment, we would like to take a moment of reflection to acknowledge our collective experience during the pandemic. The spread of COVID-19 has escalated rapidly in Waterloo region, and if we do not make major changes now, we face entering the lockdown zone. We will need to dramatically reduce our social interactions. One, we need to stay home and only go out for essential purposes like going to work, school, getting groceries, keeping a medical appointment, or exercising outdoors. Two, we need to limit our social interactions to only those within our household, which can include one or two essential caregivers or essential supporters. For someone who is living alone, the Region of Waterloo Public Health is urging everyone to help our community through these personal actions that we can each take. Please do your part and stay home. Staying home is as much as we can is the only way to stop the spread of COVID-19. We've done it before, we can do it again. So, land acknowledgement, Councillor Fenning.
We have gathered in Wilmot Township on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Mississauga peoples. We also want to acknowledge the importance of the Dish with One Spoon Covenant, a peace agreement made between Indigenous nations before the Europeans arrived. It characterizes our collective responsibility to each other and Mother Earth. We should take only what we need, leave enough for others, and keep the dish clean. By acknowledging this covenant with the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, we are reminded of our important connection to this land where we live, learn, and work together as a community.
Thank you, Councillor Fenning. Are there any additions to the agenda? Seeing none, are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Okay. So the first item is the minutes from previous minutes from council meetings November 2nd, 2020. Recommendation that the minutes of the following meeting be adopted as presented. Council meeting November 2, 2020. Moved by Councillor Fenning, second by Councillor Gordick. Are there any corrections, omissions? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So the next item up is the report from the updated strategic plan for 2020 work program. Mr. Whittington, you have a presentation.
Actually, through you, Mayor Armstrong, I'm going to be starting off a presentation. So if the Zoom host could get the presentation up for us. Wonderful. We are proud to present the updated strategic plan for council review. This has been a wonderful project to be a part of and is the culmination of many hours of stakeholder engagement, reviewing feedback, and exploring how the corporation can realize the goals of the community while holding true to the core values of Wilmot. Grant, Patrick, Tracy, and myself are going to walk you through the strategic plan, which will segue into the work program. As we go through the presentation, you will see quote bubbles that have been placed randomly. These are direct quotes from the public received through the stakeholder engagement process. We received a lot of feedback, and these quotes are just a small sample of what the public said. First, I would like to ask Mr. Whittington. He will talk about the 2013 strategic plan.
Thank you, Don. The township worked on with the consulting firm who had a wealth of experience in facilitating strategical plan engagement exercises in preparing the final 2013 strategical plan. They took the community and the steering committee through a focus group style exercise to develop the vision and mission statements that hold true to today. And what I'd like to do is read you these two statements because they're going to continue in the future. Vision: Wilmot is a cohesive, vibrant, and welcoming countryside community. And mission statement: to evolve and grow as a community of caring people working together to build upon a sure foundation. Through our extensive engagement process with residents, community, organizations, businesses, and council, we distilled the feedback down to identify 6 core values: health and well-being, diversity, legacy, accessibility and inclusivity, forward thinking, and balance. Strategic plans are far-reaching documents that are expected to help form municipal decision-making for 20 years or more. With each term of council, the document is reviewed and refined to ensure that it is up to date with ever-evolving community and to identify new opportunities to achieve our collective goals. Could I have the next slide, please? Thank you. An RFP was issued and evaluated by staff. WCM Consultants was selected based on their experience, grasp of the scope of work, and the ability to help staff in taking on a more hands-on role. Going forward, the intentions are for staff to facilitate this process for future strategical plans. The steering committee members are as follows: Mayor Armstrong, Councillor Hulleman, Councillor Gerber, the CEO, the Director of Corporate Services, Director of Development Services, Director of Information and Legislative Services, Director of Parks, Facilities, and Recreation Services. And just a note, all the members of the senior management team were engaged in this process and endorsed this plan. Now I'd like to pass this over to Tracy to discuss the stakeholder engagement. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff led 3 in-person workshops to kick off the engagement portion of the strategic plan update. Workshops were presented to community groups, the local business community, and a final one for township staff. The consultant led one-on-one interviews with members of council. In total, engagement was approximately 235 people. Attendees at the workshops were separated into small groups to allow for brainstorming and encourage conversation. Each workshop focused on 4 specific questions. Number 1, what services are important to you? Where would you like to see the township focus their efforts? Number 2, what could get you excited and supportive? What areas and initiatives are of greatest interest? Things such as economic development, community growth, arts and culture, neighborhood vitality, or efficient and high-performing government. The third question was, if you could implement anything, what would it be? This was the sky's the limit, anything goes. And finally, we asked them where the least amount of interest for improvement or project implementation was. This community and staff engagement was well received by the participants, and the feedback received was instrumental in the development of the update. Next slide, please. The results of the community and staff feedback, as well as the consultant-led survey, were analyzed, and it was clear that the core values and goals identified in the 2013 plan needed to be refined. This resulted in realignment of goals and the addition of responsible governance as a goal for the township. Staff were very pleased with the results of this community engagement process, as it reinforced the current strategic direction and identified areas for continued growth. Now I'd like to pass it along to Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. As expected, the core values for the township have not changed significantly since 2013. As a staff and council, we use these core values as a lens in all decision making coming forward. The one change you will see is within terminology alone, where the 2013 strategic plan included diversity. This updated plan uses the term community based on analysis of the existing strategic plan and the stakeholder consultations. We've recognized the importance of a sense of community throughout Wilmot. This core value of community has been showcased greatly this year as we collectively work together throughout all of Wilmot to endure through the challenges of COVID-19. This does not discount the value of diversity. However, our consultants and the steering committee came to agreement that diversity is better captured within the broader context of accessibility and inclusivity. In addition to the values of accessibility and inclusivity and community, we continue to plan and act under the values of legacy, balance, forward thinking, and health and well-being. Next slide, please. One concern noted by staff and other stakeholders was the challenge in articulating our goals under the existing terminology used within the 2013 strategic plan. As such, the 4 existing goals were modified slightly to community engagement, economic prosperity, environmental protection, and quality of life. Finally, and most importantly, as a staff and steering committee, we've been encouraged that through this update, the community identified responsible governance as a goal for the township. The various strategies outlined to achieve this goal will directly impact all staff in providing efficient services, active communications, and infrastructure investments in a fiscally responsible manner. Will show value for the investment of this community in each and every one of us. The actions identified within the plan and later within this presentation that will drive us forward towards achieving this goal include a sincere focus on building a culture of asset management to ensure council and staff are making evidence-based decisions for our infrastructure assets. In addition, we'll look to enhance corporate communications and community outreach to ensure citizens and businesses of the township are actively engaged in the decision-making processes we undertake. Overall, these goals are consistent with leading municipalities and are critical for staff to understand and reflect upon as we bring forward recommendations to our departmental teams and to our elected officials. I'll now hand things over to Dawn, who will review some of the underlying strategies we use to achieve these goals.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. With the feedback in hand, staff reviewed each comment and began sorting them according to the identified goals. Many of the strategies from 2013 remain valid for the updated plan, but did require fine-tuning. Like the goals, the strategies were written less like sentences and phrased like topic headings. We tried to keep the number of strategies to no more than 5, but this meant thinking of strategies in a more expanded way. For example, we no longer include a specific strategy for ensuring people's safety, but that is now incorporated into health and well-being, but depending on the action, could also be included under master planning in the case of emergency management, and active communications for providing details on who does what for police and regional bylaw enforcement versus township bylaw enforcement. This rephrasing of strategies allowed for outliers in the feedback provided to be included. Most feedback was easily grouped into themes or repeated similar ideas or actions. All feedback was valuable and was incorporated, provided it fell within the responsibilities of the township. This slide shows the full list of strategies identified. Next slide, please. Thank you. From the 2013 strategic plan, many of the actions had been completed, but some were more long-term or were deferred for various reasons, such as timing with other actions, resource allocation, or other priorities taking precedence. In the updated strategic plan, actions from the 2013 plan were included in black type. New initiatives from the consultations were in red type, and new actions resulting from the 2019 novel coronavirus pandemic are in blue type. One action, The Prime Minister's Path consultation was in black type and should have been in red to identify it as a new action. My apologies for that error and any confusion that may have caused. As this slide shows, there are several new actions, including 25 in responsible governance. It would not have been possible to update this strategic plan without including the far-reaching effects of the pandemic on so many aspects of municipal operations, long-range planning, and the implementation of lessons learned, as is illustrated here and in the annual work program. Next slide, please. The implementation of the updated strategic plan contains most of what was included in the 2013 strategic plan, but includes additional updates to ensure the public remains informed. Staff reports will continue to note how the recommendations relate to values, goals, strategies, or actions contained within the strategic plan. The annual work program will continue to identify projects identified within the strategic plan, and plan reviews will occur with each new term of council. The addition of dedicated corporate communications professional will allow for more robust engagement and awareness of the strategy. This will not only include awareness of progress, but to launch the plan itself. 2 new implementation initiatives have been identified to help with staff ownership of the strategic plan. Each director will be leading their staff through a departmental mission statement exercise. The mission statement included in the strategic plan is that statement of purpose that provides direction and guides decision-making for how the corporation as a whole will achieve the corporate vision. As staff, building off of the corporate mission statement, we can define a departmental statement of purpose in the achievement of the corporate vision. To provide the public and council with an at-a-glance update on the actions identified in the updated strategic plan, an outline progress reporting tool will be implemented. This tool will enhance accountability and transparency as staff works to complete these actions. Some actions by their nature will be longer-term projects, some will be short, while others are somewhere in between. A minor typo was located on page 18 of the strategic plan, page 50 of the agenda package, under engagement and awareness, where it reads, as such, keeping them appraised, it should be apprised. Sorry for that. Mr. Kelly and Mr. Whittington will now conclude the presentation by highlighting the annual work program.
Thank you, Ms. Middleholtz. With a clear direction in place for the municipality, the township continues with our practice of establishing and reporting to council through an annual work program. This work program, under the leadership of the CAO and management team, helps ensure that staff from an operating and capital perspective are moving the township forward in a consistent direction towards our shared goals for the organization and that of the broader community. These plans help to ensure we're realistic in what can be achieved with the existing resources from a staffing and budgetary perspective. Staff rely upon the work program to maintain alignment from frontline staff through managers and supervisors to directors in achieving the targets for the year.
As council is aware, the COVID-19 pandemic created significant service disruptions for the township. And a majority of the focus throughout the spring and summer was on adapting business processes and practices to our new environment. Through all of that, I am very proud to note that staff have continued to complete a very wide range of initiatives and projects that keep Wilmot on track towards our vision and mission. Along with the strategical plan that has been recommended by the steering committee and being presented tonight, council will also find the 2019 work review and the mid-year update to the 2020 work program and actions that are tied to this new updated strategical plan. The work program identifies nearly 350 initiatives for 2020. And although some of them have been deferred due to COVID-19, a great amount of them and the productivity of is witnessed across the organization. Again, these are very challenging times, And we look forward to the next council meeting, which will then even have more interesting and exciting reports for council's consideration, including the fire master plan and the Wilmot branding report. In the case of the branding report, you can notice that our strategical plan is missing a front cover, and that will be replaced with that report as endorsed by council. Senior management are all in attendance to respond to any of your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, team. Well done. I just want to add that there was a lot of hard work and a lot of work coming from the community. I'm really pleased with how much input we had from the community, and I think it shows within the plan itself. So it was a lot of hard work by staff and by the committee as well. So I want to express my thanks to Councillor Gerber and Councillor Hallman for their input as well. And staff have done a great job. So Councillor Hallman, you wish to make any comments?
Thank you. Through the mayor, I just wanted to comment on the process, that it was great to see such great community engagement, and I'm happy to see the result of a new focus item being added to that list, which the Director of Corporate Services coverage there. It's a good direction for our municipality, and I'm happy to see this moving forward.
Councillor Gerber.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Armstrong. Through you, having been involved in and been a strong advocate for the updating of the Township Strategic Plan after it had sat dormant a little bit through much of the 90s and the early 2000s. It is great to see all the consultation and the collective effort that went into the 2013 plan being updated in this extensive manner. And to know that as part of it, it will be reviewed and built upon each term of council moving forward, which I think is also so important. We continue to build on our mission to evolve and grow as a community of caring people. And what that means, each term of council, of course, needs to be reflected upon and updated. And I believe we are moving in that direction as we work together to build upon a sure foundation. Like others, I appreciate all the work that staff put into this, along with the consultant and the community. The community input, of course, you can't have a strategic plan without that. And to move along through this process, through the COVID-19 pandemic, was certainly heroic effort on the parts of many. Highlights of what we're looking at tonight, to me, include things like the importance that people place on belonging and the role that the township can play in building that sense of belonging. An investigation into a potential for a feasible performing arts facility, the Scout Wetlands development, commitment to working and providing service that helps eliminate systemic and racial discrimination, a shift away from age-based replacement to a prioritized asset management replacement, establish a maintenance program for the Trails Network, and I could go on, but those were just sort of 5 or 6 that I wanted to highlight in these remarks of endorsement here tonight. The strategic plan, of course, is essential to enabling Wilmot to remain true to our vision of being a cohesive, welcoming, and vibrant countryside community. It is a living, breathing document, and I'm happy to endorse this update along with the rest of the Strategic Plan Steering Committee.
Thank you, Councillor Gerber. Councillor Fenning.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Armstrong. I want to extend my thanks to the committee and all the staff for all their hard work on this. And I echo the comments made about the direction this is taking us. The things I highlighted, the goals are exactly what we need as a community, and I look forward to seeing them implemented more.
Thank you, Councillor Fenning. Councillor Fisher.
Through you, Mayor Armstrong. It's a very thorough document, and I'm very excited to see this be incorporated into the township. Thanks to everyone who submitted their thoughts and the committee members and the consultant for their hard work to get to this point. Job well done.
Thank you. Councillor Gordick.
Through you, Mayor Armstrong, I'm going to echo what's previously been said. A lot of hard work went into this, and especially during COVID, it's amazing that you guys were able to actually sort of get together and plan some time to sit down and chat about how we were going to help us get this document presented. So thank you for that, the hard work, and also to the outstanding community who participated in giving us some of our goals to work towards. I just have a couple of really quick comments. I know that we've been told before, but just for the general public who might be looking at this document, because as our audience seems to be growing now that we're on Zoom, I have two questions. One would be, could we please explain to the general public what JASOND stands for, please? That's my first question. So I'm not sure who would answer that, Dawn or Ms. Middleholtz or Mr. Whittington, please.
Who wants to take that?
Through you, Mayor Armstrong. I'm sorry, what initials are you?
Across the top of the work plan, it says, yeah, I know that we've been told before, but I totally forgot. But other people might be looking at it, kind of wondering what those initials stand for.
July, August, September, October, November, December. That's what that stands for.
July, August, September, October. Okay. Thank you very much. And then through your second, just a small comment, and again, just a small little bug for me, Ms. Middleholtz. On page 75, I still don't think that our procedural bylaws are complete, because I'm going to bring up the inaugural. I'd like to see that maybe changed to not complete, because I'd like us to have that decision made before the next term of council as to a decision regarding having our procedural bylaws looked at with regards to the inaugural, and a solicitor review on that regarding the Supreme Court decision. So I don't believe that it's a complete project. So I'm just wondering if we can have that looked at and maybe changed.
Through you, Mayor Armstrong. So with the procedural bylaw, and there was a couple updates to the procedural bylaw because some were required as a result of COVID-19. So those updates were completed. The one that we were working on at the beginning of 2020 and were most likely going to have available for review. I'm sorry, I'm just going through here. Yeah, so if you look to line 44, okay, so that is the review part that you're talking about. The one that includes the updates you were requesting to do with the inaugural council meeting, as well as some other more housekeeping items. That one is not completed. However, it is going to be needing to be completed in 2021. I will not be able to complete those in 2020. So that's the one we're talking about. The ones to do with electronic participation, such as we're dealing with right now, those ones are completed. Councillor Gordick, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Sorry about that, wrong button. Sorry, Ms. Middleholtz, through you, Mayor Armstrong. Could you please tell me what page that is? Because I'm looking at one and I might have missed the other one that you're referring to.
Page 59.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you very much, Ms. Middleholtz. Appreciate the response.
Councillor Hallman, you wish to speak?
Thank you. Through the mayor to the clerk. I'm through the work program. I have concerns about the code of conduct being delayed until the next term of council. This is something that I brought up before, as it's from 2007, and this is the document that obviously one of the two main documents that we function by. I feel really alarmed by this, and I would also like to receive correspondence from the Integrity Commissioner on on his opinion of us delaying this until the next term of council. I don't feel comfortable, as the last time was 2007, and it's supposed to be reviewed every term of council, which means that there has been a few terms of council that have been operating under this document, and I'm not comfortable with that being delayed until the next term of council.
Ms. Biddle-Holtz.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Armstrong. So certainly the work program and the various responsibilities that are on the Information and Legislative Services Department right now is very full. We have a lot of expectations on us right now. A lot of, I'm sorry, Mr. Armstrong, can you, or Mayor Armstrong, can you please?
Sorry.
It's okay. Thank you. So to include that in the 2021 work program, because again, it will not be ready in 2020. We are still in a pandemic. There are a lot of expectations on this department as a result of the pandemic to say that we can definitely finish that in 2021 with everything else that is, there will be other things that will have to be deferred or delayed as a result. Certainly, I'd be more than happy to get a quote from or a letter from our integrity commissioner about this. The other part of the thought process is that we are halfway through the term. So to change the code of conduct for council at this point in time, I'm not sure what effect that would necessarily have on council. But as I said, I can make that change. It's going to have a domino effect because we do have limited resources.
A follow-up through the mayor?
Yes.
I guess my comment then would be to the CAO that this is something that I have been advocating for from 2 years ago with my time on council, and I'm not comfortable with this, Mr. Whittington. So I would like to see that this is bumped up to a priority for next year, understanding that absolutely other things will have to be backbenched. But this has gone back to 2007 through all the training that I've done through AMO. Looking at the Municipal Act, it's alarming to me, and I believe that this needs to be a priority before the end of this term of council.
Mr. Whittington.
Through the mayor, yes. What I'll do is I will be working with the director as to the 2021 work program, which will be coming for council's consideration and approval. And then there's also the further update that would be occurring later in the year. So we'll be back.
Thank you. Councillor Fisher.
Through you, Mayor Armstrong. I believe this goes to Mr. Kelly regarding the strategic plan, page 12. Expand financial assistance program to include seniors and other demographics. Could you expand on that, please?
Sure. Through you, Mayor Armstrong, to Councillor Fisher. Currently, the township has a financial recreation and cultural programming financial assistance program. It's accessible to youth under the age of 14 who are participating in sports, recreation, or cultural activities within the township based on their income brackets tied to low income thresholds and poverty thresholds. People can apply to receive subsidies or funding support to register their children within activities. Through the consultation process, it was, and through previous communications over the past few years, it's been brought to our attention that other demographics, the seniors community, people that may not be in the under 14 age group, but still want to participate in activities throughout the township, don't have the fiscal resources to do so. So we're looking to the 3 cities specifically have programs in place that expand that envelope of funding and financial assistance to seniors and other demographics groups. So we'll look at implementing a program such as that within the township. We're hoping to get that started in 2021. It's been pushed back. It was originally going to get reviewed in 2020, but COVID pushed us back on that.
Okay. One other question too, if I might, Mayor, directed to the Public Works regarding the bridge program. Was there any issues when there was they were reviewed?
Through you, Mayor Armstrong. Hard to really define what issues might be. All of our structures obviously have some work that would be associated with the work program or with an annual type of a work program. So I would say we're not surprised by any of the results, and that we standard every year we have or every other year we have this report come back to us with some of our with our standard work program items, and anything that we do have that's new or that comes new to us, we would certainly update within our 10-year capitals. So in terms of what the bridge appraisals and the results that came back, I would say it's pretty standard for what we would have expected.
Councillor Gerber.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor Armstrong, just to sort of echo and piggyback on what Councillor Hallman had mentioned and Ms. Middleholt's response on the code of conduct. I mean, perhaps a goal would be, I mean, obviously getting it done well for this term of council would be fantastic, but I think at least getting it done so that it's ready and in effect for the next term of council. Like I think the fear of deferring it is that all of a sudden then the 2022 term starts and we're maybe no further ahead, who's ever around the horseshoe then, we're maybe no further ahead on having that updated than we are now. Whereas if, I mean, ideally it gets done this term, but I understand what you're saying, Ms. Middleholtz, as far as changing the terms of reference in the middle of a term, but at least having it in place and getting the work done now while this group is here, so that moving forward, the next group knows what the updated expectations look like. So maybe that's maybe a way to sort of, you know, at least have that as a goal, if not getting it done for the rest of this term. Just a thought.
Thank you. Councillor Hallman.
Thank you, through the mayor. A question for the chief, point 239. Just wondering if you can comment on what the reason for the deferral of the women's shower was for in Baden.
Through you, Mayor Armstrong, the delay was purely based on COVID, trying to get an engineer and an architect lined up to do the project, which is a requirement under the building code, was very difficult. I did finally secure someone very late this year. The process is in the works. And moving forward, I fully planned on having it done, and getting contractors was very difficult as well. You're muted, Councillor Hallman.
There we go. Thought I clicked it. Thank you, Chief. And my next question is for Ms. Jackson, item number 136, about the room in Hayesville. This room was something that Councillor Gordick and I advocated quite heavily for, and I was just really excited about it. And I understand staff is swamped, but I would really like to see it at some point in the future if that can be accommodated with COVID safety measures. Perhaps not now, as we've just entered orange restricts, but if we can add that to our radar when the dust settles, that I would love to have the opportunity to see that.
Sorry, thank you, through the mayor. The Hayesville Games repurposing, that particular one, that project is actually complete.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yes, it's just that that was something that Councillor Gordick and I were advocating for quite heavily for the brownies and with those user groups, and I would just love to see the end result. I understand right now is not the time, but just if we can keep that on the radar, that I would love that opportunity when it's safe to do so.
For sure, the opportunity to come and see it. Is that what you're saying? Oh, absolutely. We'll talk.
Great. And I have just one more question. I'm not sure who it should be directed to, but point 55, I was just wondering if there was a status on the consultant being hired for the PM Path and that discussion.
Ms. Middleholtz.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Armstrong. The RFP was circulated. However, there wasn't any uptake from consultants. The selection committee is meeting on Wednesday to discuss next steps.
Yeah, okay, Councillor Gordick.
Through you, Mayor Armstrong. Thank you. So a quick question through to the Director of Castle Kilbride, Ms. Locke. I'm just wondering if you could just expand a little bit on what it means by a public art policy. And from there, I just have another question after that, just so that we know. Thank you.
Ms. Locke.
Thank you, Mayor Armstrong. To Councillor Gordick, so the public art policy would be a first for the township, and it would define some guidelines and some specs around when it comes to public art on sort of choosing to what would be appropriate to, it's quite a vast guidelines, and it's just something we're just going to be looking at, and it was part of the Arts and Culture Master Plan. But just I would be looking at it as something as a guideline that we could follow.
Through your Mayor Armstrong, a follow-up to Ms. Locke. So what I mean is that meaning something like murals? Is it something for us to art festivals? Like, I'm just kind of wondering if from the feedback, because we didn't get to all see every little bit, was there something specifically that made that come out of the consultation?
For you, Mayor Armstrong, it could mean murals, it could mean signage, it could mean anything, and that's what we want to define on what defines public art. So it wouldn't be just one or two things. So quite fast.
Thank you very much. And through you, Mayor Armstrong, I'd like to also just make a comment with regards to some of the work plan that's been done. I'd just like to put a shout out to the two Andrews and Councillor Fenning for all their hard work on the trails the last little while and getting a lot of those projects completed. So I'm afraid I can't remember the other Andrew's last name, so my apologies. But Mr. Martin and Councillor Fenning, kudos to getting all that work done. I haven't been out, as you know, so I just wanted to say thanks for all the hard work, because it's a lot of work, and especially during the last couple of weeks with some of the not nice weather that we've had. And finally, just a follow-up as Councillor Gerbler and sorry, not a Keebler elf, Councillor Gerber and Councillor Hallman through to Ms. Middleholtz. I would also like to reiterate that I think at least if we have the code of conduct at least ready for the next term of council, I understand that with COVID that has put some huge pressures on our legislative services. I totally understand that. But I also looked at the fact that by the time somebody gets a new council, if that's around the horseshoe, we might be looking at the spring of 2023 by the time everything starts to get, and it just gets further pushed down the road. So I think at least from 2007 and 2023, it's a long term for us to have a relevant code of conduct, especially since the Municipal Act obviously over the years has changed. So I'd just like to add my comments to that as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All good comments. And we're looking forward to the opportunity for everybody to enjoy and have happy trails. So, Councillor Fenning.
Thank you. If I may, just to comment and say thank you, Councillor Gordick. I would like to say thank you to all of the members of the Trails Committee. So now let's make sure I can actually say the list. Councillor Gerber, Andrew Martin, Andrew Beringer, Dee Dakin, Grayson Pepler, Rob Fike, and Paul Ming. Paul Ming, thank you. I'm like, okay, there's one more. Thank you, Councillor Gerber. It has been a real pleasure working on this project, and I am really looking forward to when it is fully complete and open. I know there have been some users already.
Thank you. I see no further questions. So the recommendation that, as per the recommendation from Strategic Plan Steering Committee, the updated Township of Wilmot Strategic Plan dated November 16th, 2020 be endorsed, and that the 2020 work program be affirmed. Moved by Councillor Gordick, Councillor Gerber. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next, we have the consent agenda. We are now onto the consent agenda. If members of council have any questions and want to remove an item from the consent agenda, please indicate so now, as we will not take questions on consent items unless the items are requested to be removed to the regular agenda. Seeing none. Recommendation that report numbers ILS 2020-33, ILS 2020-34, ILS 2020-35, and ILS 2020-36 be approved. Moved by Councillor Fisher, Councillor Hallman. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next report is from Development Services, zone change application. Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Armstrong. This report is further to the public meeting held at the last meeting of council with respect to a property in New Hamburg at the corner of Astor and Forest. As you'll recall, this application proposes to alter the zoning to allow for a 12-unit apartment building on this property. There were comments received from 4 property owners, 3 of which had concerns with compatibility, safety, visual impacts, property values, and 1 having further questions and concerns potentially with respect to drainage and site plan considerations. So the report goes through those concerns in detail. Quickly, a summary of that with respect to compatibility. Certainly staff feel this is an appropriate land use for the property. This neighborhood already has a mix of housing forms on Hink Street, obviously with apartment buildings, multiplex buildings immediately behind this property, and semis and singles surrounding. So certainly the introduction of a different form of housing is consistent and encouraged by official plan policies, and certainly is compatible in terms of land use planning. With respect to drainage, parking, landscaping, fencing, buffering, all those are certainly matters that we will take into account and are addressed through standard site plan processing. And that would be the next step in this process should the zoning be approved. With respect to traffic and safety, certainly it's not anticipated that the volume of vehicles generated from this property would impede the existing road network. Some concerns were with respect to the number of people coming in and out of this property, but certainly the previous proposal would have seen up to 7 access points to service the townhomes, whereas this would be 1 access point. So in theory, it's only 1 point of crossing versus the 7 that potentially would have occurred under the previous development plan. And we typically do hear concerns about property values, and although not a land use planning consideration, we provide a similar response when those concerns come up, in that we don't see the impact of these sorts of developments degrading property values, and certainly we see a property value appreciation throughout the township in general. So in summary, certainly staff support this development. We feel it's appropriate land use. It's an appropriate location. It's serviced by the flex routes for Grand River Transit, so it's another addition to an appropriate location. And ultimately, a mix of housing forms being provided in all neighborhoods is something that achieves provincial, regional, and township official plan policies, and staff recommend approval.
Thank you. Councillor Hallman.
Thank you for the mayor to Mr. Martin. Thanks for that great summary. Just wanted to touch base quickly on the issue raised by one of the constituents on drainage. I did have a brief discussion with that resident about that drainage, and I just wanted to follow up that the next step would be that once this would go through, presumably, that those issues would be addressed at that time.
Correct. So lot grading and drainage and stormwater management are reviewed at the site plan approval stage, and certainly ensuring that drainage isn't impeding or impacting neighboring properties is something at standard that's looked at, and development services staff in conjunction with the public works and engineering department would look at that through that site plan approval process.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Fanning.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Armstrong, to Mr. Martin, and comments generally. You know, we just approved the strategic plan, which talks about inclusion and accessibility, and I think that projects like this are very important in increasing the inclusivity and accessibility of our community. So I very much support it.
Councillor Gerber.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor Armstrong. Thank you very much for the report, Mr. Martin. I know a couple of the residences had concerns, you know, the height of the building and overlooking adjacent properties. I just wanted to highlight and maybe just to confirm that this amendment doesn't change the height of any of the buildings that could have been built there. So it's possible that any of the 7 units that would have been built there could have risen to the same height had they been so designed. I just wanted to confirm that that is indeed, I'm reading that properly.
Yeah, through your Mayor Armstrong to Councillor Gerber. Yeah, so the height restriction doesn't deal with stories. It's a maximum height. So within that 10.5 meters, you can have, you know, however many stories that would comply with the Ontario Building Code. So yes, in theory, the previous townhome development could have certainly, and you see similarly on Captain McCallum Drive, some of those townhome units there that have up to 3 stories, and they comply with that 10.5 meter height restriction. So nothing changes through this proposal.
Thank you. And there are no further questions. Okay, the recommendation that council approve zone change application 08/20 made by Damian Jaworski affecting block 99, plan 58M-414 and lot 12, plan 1366 to change the zoning of the subject property from zone 4A residential to zone 4 residential. And that is moved by Councillor Hallman, Councillor Fanning. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next item is from Fire Services. Chief.
Through you, Mayor Armstrong. The report before council tonight outlines a kind of an exciting time for us. The department has, through a committee, has spent a lot of time establishing what we will call a standard pumper build for the department. So in the future, this will be our hallmark truck, so that when we're replacing pumper trucks down the road, this will just be a cookie cutter, take it out to our FP down the road, and a tremendous amount of work went through this. We had to go through the process twice. We had to refine the specifications on our second round so we could be, we were fiscally challenged. So we went through a lot of steps to make sure that we could meet the minimum standards that the department needed, and to meet the community needs, growth, future growth, etc. So if there's any questions the council has for me, I'm ready and willing to answer those questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And I don't see any questions. So the recommendation that RFP 2020-25 be awarded to Fort Garry Fire Trucks to supply and deliver 1 2021 Spartan triple combination pumper apparatus as per their proposal dated October 23rd, 2020 in the amount of $773,539 plus HST. And further, that additional funding of $62,200 be incorporated with the 2021 capital budget and 10-year capital forecast. And that is moved by Councillor Fisher, second by Councillor Fenning. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. The next item is bylaws. The recommendation that bylaw number 2020-42 be introduced, read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed in open council. Moved by Councillor Hallman, Councillor Fenning. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Are there any notice of motions? Seeing none. Any announcements? Councillor Gordick.
Through you, Mayor Armstrong. I just wanted to let everybody know Suicide Action Wilmot Wellesley would have been hosting its Suicide Awareness Breakfast this coming Wednesday, November the 18th. However, due to COVID this year, asked members of our community, what do you do when you are overwhelmed? People recorded themselves explaining what they do when they are feeling stressed, and these answers have all been compiled into a video called Overwhelmed. The project is a way to highlight that it's not unusual to feel anxious and overwhelmed, and that if you're in a crisis, you are not alone. Interfaith Counseling Center is one of SAW's partners, and ICC will be sharing the Overwhelmed video on its social media on Wednesday at 9:15. So please take a look if you can. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gordick. Councillor Hallman, sorry, Councillor Gerber first.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Armstrong. As we know, it is the month of November, and you can probably tell by looking at the screen that I have not been blessed with the facial hair to really actively participate in that endeavor very often. But one of our members around the Horseshoe does and supports this annually every year. I just want to highlight Mr. Kelly, our Director of Corporate Services. I had the opportunity to support his Movember fundraising initiative, which of course has been expanded to include so many other aspects of men's health, including the ever important aspect of men's mental health and well-being. So I just wanted to highlight that for the month of Movember. So if any of you out there know people who are participating in raising funds for that important cause, please support them. And if you're looking for someone to support, by all means, reach out to Mr. Kelly. He'd be love to have your support, I'm sure. Thanks, Patrick.
I'm sure he would love you to share your stash with his stash. Councillor Hallman.
Thank you, through the mayor. One of my comments was going to be echoing what Councillor Gerber just said. Last council meeting, I put it out there that I would make a donation if people reached out. I've set aside funds for that, and I'm still looking for a few others. I've donated to Mr. Kelly's donation, his November. So if you're a Wilmot resident, reach out to me and let me know. I'm still looking for a few others to support on this. I also wanted to wish our community, our Sikh, Hindu, and Jain community a happy Diwali, as there's 3 more days left of their celebration this week. So I'm sure that's very different for your families right now. And thank you for doing your part by staying home and finding different meaningful ways to celebrate your Diwali this year. Also wanted to comment that this is Transgender Awareness Week, and I've received a couple of phone calls today from members of the transgender community who live in Wilmot, who expressed their thanks that the motion passed for the Pride flag to be flown in our community, and are looking forward to seeing it next June. And we're also really pleased to see the rainbow stickers on our facilities. I did want to comment that I know that because I was mentioning this evening, that I was hoping that the CAO would comment on some other aspects that are coming to training for staff on this topic as well.
Mr. Whittington, did you wish to comment?
Yes, through the mayor, in respect to staff training, there is going to be an email that was, I'm just trying to recall if we actually got it sent out or not to the members. Is that a thumb yes? Because we were wanting to get that out today, if not late last week. But it highlighted various areas such as anti-racism and the actions that we are working with the region on that and coordinating through them, and Indigenous, and as to the history and getting much more of a better grasp of the subject itself for all senior management as well as the members of council. And that invite has gone out as well. That's just the start. Like there's a lot more to come, but this is something that I think there's many of us, including myself, that are very passionate about this subject, and we're looking forward to this moving along. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Armstrong, if I could just add on to that,
Yes.
Councillor Hallman, to your comment about the pride stickers on township facilities. We have been working with a third party to secure training for all staff on positive space training, 2S LGBTQ plus training. There's been a lot of back and forth. Unfortunately, the schedules for the body that we want to be training our staff haven't worked out for this fall. So we're looking into the early part of next year to get that completed. But it is definitely on our radar and a priority for senior management and all staff.
Very good, thank you. Well, I just wanted to comment too about the Remembrance Day at the Cenotaph in New Hamburg, that there was quite a turnout, and I was really impressed, and I think a lot of people are, because we did have people from the city coming out as well. So it was great to see the numbers that were there. Councillor Fenning.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Armstrong. I just want to say to the community, thank you everyone who is staying home, who is staying apart, and who are taking precautions when you're out in public and when you have to go out. Every time that we make a decision that keeps others safe, we're moving it forward. We're shortening the time that we have to stay locked down, and we're reducing the spread of this terrible disease that's impacting so many lives. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge the many people in the community who haven't been able to commemorate lives lost, seniors whose passing has not had the same commemoration that we would have normally had, and people who are suffering for other illnesses and who aren't able to have the physical presence of their families with them. We acknowledge the pain that that is causing to everyone. And you're not alone. Please reach out if you need help.
Words well spoken. Thank you. And on the pandemic and the fact that we're in the orange level, that I want everybody to be aware that the way things are ramping up, the way they're going, that it probably won't be long before we're into the red. So please be prepared and get your mindset, for that's where we're heading, unfortunately. And hopefully we don't have to go any further than that. So, okay, thank you. And the next item is the confirmatory bylaw. Recommendation that bylaw number 2020-44 to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on November 16th, 2020 be introduced and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed in open council. Moved by Councillor Gordick, Councillor Gerber. All in favor? That is carried. And that next recommendation is that we do now adjourn to meet again at the call of the mayor. And thank you everyone for attending. Moved by Councillor Fenning and Councillor Fisher. All in favor? Carried. Good night, everyone. Please be safe.